Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. On the behalf of everyone here at ISKCON Birmingham, we'd like to welcome His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu. Many of you may be hearing him for the first time. Some of us may have actually seen him earlier on. His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu actually used to stay in Birmingham in the 90s. And now Prabhu is residing in Jagannath Puri at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath. We're very grateful that we have a wonderful Vaishnava with us. Prabhu is a disciple of His Holiness Gaur Govinda Maharaj, and he's been given some instructions and under Maharaj's guidance in helping publish his magazines. So please do check that out. You can also associate with Prabhu online. And Prabhu was actually invited also, he's a great scholar in our movement. You would have heard of the Govardhan retreat with many senior Vaishnavas. I know His Holiness Satchidananda Maharaj is also one of them. So Prabhu, we're genuinely grateful that we have your association this morning. So if anyone does have any questions, hopefully we have some time for Q&A. Please do put that in the chat box. You can do that publicly. You may want to send it anonymously. So in true Birmingham spirit, I know Prabhu, when was the last time you were here in Birmingham?
I've only been to Birmingham one time in this life. Now, someone told me that if I chant 16 rounds every day, maybe my next life I'll take birth there if I'm fortunate. But I was there in 1994 with my Guru Maharaj as his personal servant. That's the only time I've been so fortunate to be there.
You can actually see on YouTube, there is a clip when His Holiness Gaur Govinda Swami is in Birmingham. There's an initiation happening in a garden at Stanmore Road. So that's something, maybe we can post the link also so we can see. So in true Birmingham spirit, we welcome Prabhu. Our hands raised high in the air, like we do care. I would say, Gauranga, Gauranga, Gauranga. His Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu ki jai. Over to you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Rasa Raj Gaur Prabhu, I don't know him, but he's being very kind. I'm not, maybe he wants to borrow money from me or something. That's why he's speaking so sweetly. I'm not really sure. I'm going to be careful. But anyway, it's natural. If you stand next to a great Kalpavriksha tree, some of the shade of that tree will fall on you, even if you're a very small, insignificant person. So I had some good fortune to be at least physically a little close with my Guru Maharaj sometimes. And that's about all that I can say. So I want to thank the devotees here very much for being so kind to invite us to get out of Maya a little bit and to remember something about the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's appropriate, actually, I think, that this pandemic has occurred during Gaura Purnima, because otherwise we can't really experience Gaura Purnima. Because if you think about it, Gauranga Mahaprabhu's pastimes began, his Sankirtan movement began behind closed doors. And they finished behind closed doors. They started in Srivasanga and they finished in the Gambhira. And in the Srivasanga, there was a strict policy, no outside persons allowed. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu's movement consists of both things, great munificence and mercy, but also something a little private. So before I go any further, I just like to recite a few prayers. Just fasten your safety belts. This will only take a minute or two. Gauragra Ganya Gana Gocha Golodu Haram Gauranga Gudatama Gopyara Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachi Adile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Gauranga Hridoya Dadiya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoya Mara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhyat Prema Bidhana Padama Pumarta Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavir Api Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jodi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunath Apta Brajabala Pahimam Vanchakalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I mentioned something I'd like to elaborate on a little more, and that is the how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement began behind closed doors and finished behind closed doors, and how that has some relevance for us today. I find generally with devotees in the pandemic, now everybody's just completely sick of it. For the first 6 months, it was difficult. And then after that, it was really hard. And now it's been over a year, and now it's like, give me a break, right? But what can we do? We can't control things. And we read in Chaitanya Bhagavat of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, that before Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, the devotees, they were also locked up. These are the eternal associates of Mahaprabhu, but they weren't going out to preach. They were crying, wanting to help people, but nobody wanted to hear. And so then what did they do? They stayed behind closed doors and they cried and cried. And Vrindavan Das Thakur says they were feeling so much unhappiness, seeing the misery of the conditioned souls, that they began to fast. And they prayed intensely for them. And because of their prayers, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared. This is Gaura Purnima. Gaura Purnima, for many people, we're here in Jagannath Puri, and throughout the day I've been hearing kirtans in different places. There are many Gaura Bhaktas to this day in Orissa and Jagannath Puri. And for many people who observe Gaura Purnima or Janmashtami, it's something like when I grew up as a boy in a Christian family in America, something like Easter or Christmas. It was just something that you did because you were religious, and you go to the church and you meet with your friends and family and you dress up in a fancy way on those days. So there are two ways that we can observe the Avirbhav Maha Mahotsava, or appearance of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. One is in an external way, or a bahirmukh way, external way, and the other is an antarmukh, an internal way. And of course, if we want to get the full mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we want to understand that internal way. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu first appeared when the devotees were locked up and they were crying. And he didn't manifest himself directly. We'll hear something a little bit about that today. He came, but he was Chana avatar. He was a hidden incarnation. And it wasn't until later that he began to manifest his pastimes of kirtan, and he became known as Sankirtanaika Pitaro, or the father of the Sankirtan movement, in the home of Srivas Thakur. And those kirtans were also private kirtans. And as I also mentioned, his concluding pastimes were also behind closed doors. So there is so much that could be said about that, but just to touch on it lightly, to give a very simple and I think obvious purport, if we want to enter into Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, if we want to manifest the Premanam Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which is different from what Srila Jiva Goswami in his Laghu Vaishnav Toshini commentaries on the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam describes it as Kebala Nam, or common chanting, which gives Dharma, Artha, Kama, and maybe even Moksha, but it doesn't give Krishna Prem. That Kebala Nam is one thing, but if we want to enter, if we want to establish the Premanam Sankirtan, then we have to go very deep. And to teach us that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, before he began his Sankirtan movement, he began with closed doors, with intimate associates. And that's what's going on today. Here in this Zoom meeting, sometimes devotees, they say, anyway, it's not so bad. We can all meet together by Zoom or on Facebook. I have a little comment about that. Let's just, if you looked in the newspapers 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan, you'd find a very shocking event happened. Someone named Akrura came and took Krishna away from Vrindavan, and all the Braj Gopikas began to cry in separation. It was in the news. It was big news. Now, if at that time you would go to those gopis and you would tell them, don't cry, it's okay. We're going to arrange a Zoom program with you and Krishna. Krishna's on Facebook. Will those gopis be satisfied with that? They won't be satisfied. And let's be really blunt. I'm very grateful for the devotees to give me some opportunity to associate with all of you in this way, because real association means through the medium of the heart, through the medium of the ear. But even in this case, we're still not fully satisfied, because we'd all like to take prasadam together, isn't it? We'd like to give a big hug to the devotee next to us. We'd like to see the look on their face, things which we can't do directly in Zoom. So this, I feel strongly, is Gauranga Mahaprabhu's arrangement. Just like if you have a pot of water on a stove and you turn it up full blast, the flame, then in that small kitchen that will become filled up with steam, and it looks very, very impressive. The same pot, however, if you put a lid on it, you don't see anything, and it really doesn't look like very much. But that pot with the lid on it, something happens. The pressure builds up and builds up until that pot will actually explode. And this is the kirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami begins his Laghu Vaishnav Toshini with a very beautiful verse, which Jiva Goswami also includes in his writings. Sri Chaitanya Mukod Girna Hare Krishna Tivarnaka Majayanta Jagat Premni Vijayanta Tadavaya. This is the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's Mukod Girna. Muk means, of course, from the mouth, and Udgirna means something which is exploding. Udgirna is also a synonym for Udgar in Bengali. Udgar means to vomit. When do you vomit? This is vomit tattva for all of those of you who are interested in hearing about this topic. When do you vomit? When you've eaten, your stomach is completely full and you can't take any more. That's when you vomit. And when someone vomits, we can tell, excuse me for being a little gross. I'm speaking to devotees from UK. You can tell by the smell. and by the look of that vomit, what they've been eating. And so similarly, when someone begins to speak, we can tell what they've been eating by what comes out. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement is not Kebala Nam, but it's Prema Sankirtan. It's Mukodgirna. Hare Krishneti Varnaka. He's spread this Hare Krishna mantra in this way all over the universe. Not Kebala Nam, but Prema Sankirtan. So his movement began behind closed doors. And to teach us, it also ends behind closed doors. Because when we do kirtan in Soho Street, many times I've done kirtan with the devotees in London. It's a very wonderful experience. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But it's not the same as if you go to do kirtan in Mayapur Madhav Prabhu's house. And there's just a few devotees there, and maybe Madhav Prabhu comes. And maybe even a Kinchan is also there. We have some of the best kirtaniyas, and Gopal's playing mridanga. It's a small, intimate group. And the feelings that we experience in that kirtan, it's not appropriate to express those feelings on the street. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu's movement has two aspects, an antaranga hetu and a bahiranga hetu, or a cause which is external and a cause which is internal. And today I'd like to speak to you a little something about both. If we want to understand Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, my Guru Maharaj, he used to say that if you want to understand Mahaprabhu, you have to understand Srimati Radharani. Don't think that the purpose of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to come to distribute coming back books in higher taste and teach people about vegetarianism and reincarnation. Gauranga Mahaprabhu is a postgraduate study. It's the highest philosophical, Siddhantic understanding in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And today we'd like to just touch a little something about that. If we want to understand Mahaprabhu, we have to understand Radharani. Because Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Surupam. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami quotes this verse that he's Krishna Sarup, but he's come in the mood and with the complexion of Radha. So when we speak about Gaura Purnima, we also have to understand how Krishna is involved and how Radha is involved. Krishna Janmastami is at midnight, and the Avirbhav of Radhika is at noon. Halfway in between the two of those is moonrise. And this is Gaura Avirbhav, because he's half Radha and half Krishna. So he appears in between the two. I'd like to sing a few verses with you from a few different books. We're mostly going to just have some reading and a little discussion. And my humble request to all of you, just to help me to be encouraged that not everybody's falling asleep when I'm speaking. If at the end we give a little time, if devotees can kindly give some reflections and tell us what it is, what prize you got, hopefully from the Katha today, and what it is that you're walking away with. That's our request, because hearing is not a passive thing. Hearing is not for entertainment, but Shravanam Kirtanam. Before we do Kirtan, we do Shravan. We hear. Hearing is the first of all of our services. Hearing is a service to Guru, Krishna, and the Vaishnavas. So we should hear attentively. And then, as the Bhagavatam tells us in the 11th canto, Paraspara anukatanam pavanam bhagavadyasa. There should be some exchange, some back and forth. That's really Hari Katha. Not just that Rasaraj Gaura Prabhu, he glorifies you because he wants to borrow some money from you or something, I don't know. He glorifies you and they give you a big chair, maybe a garland. That's not Hari Katha. And the Vaishnavas don't go to such assemblies to become worshipped and respected as a big person. But they go there to have the Avirbhav, the appearance of Krishna and Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And he appears with that Krishna Katha in the proper atmosphere where there's paraspara. There's both a speaker and a listener, and there's some exchange between the two. It's not like a lecture in the university, or God forbid, a sermon in the church, or even worse, a commercial on the television. But this is back and forth. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 3, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes some of the external and internal reasons for Gauranga Mahaprabhu's advent. In text 13, he describes, Yateshta Bihari Krishna Kore Antardan, Antardana Kore Mane Kore Anuman. He says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Yata Ishta, he has, as long as he has this desire, Bihari, he's making his pastimes seen. But then Antardan, he disappears. But after he disappears, Gauranga Mahaprabhu thinks to himself, Chirakala nahi kori prema bhakti dan, bhakti bina jagatera nahi avastan. He thought that Chirakala means for a long, long time. Nahi kori prema bhakti dan. For a long time, I've not come and give this prema bhakti. But bhakti vina, without that bhakti, jagatera nahi avastan. The material universe is useless. So for those of you who have second initiation, I won't go any further than this, we'll just give a little clue. This verse gives us a purport to the Gaura Gayatri mantra and how it is that he maintains the universe. He maintains it by distributing this prema bhakti, which had not been given in a long, long time. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't just come just to establish buildings or open up a Sunday feast program. His purpose wasn't simply to come to sell a lot of books to the BBT and make money, although that has a lot to do with things. But there's also an internal purpose we should understand. But to understand that, first we want to look something at the Gona Hetu, or secondary external purpose. Krishna describes, Shakala Jagate Mori Kori Bidhi Bhakti, Bidhi Bhakti Brajaba Paite Nahi Shakti. He said that Shakala Jagate, everybody in the universe, they're all doing this Vidhi Bhakti, this Vaidhi Bhakti, they're worshiping me in this way. But Bidhi Bhakti Brajaba Paite Nahi Shakti, it doesn't have so much potency as the residents, the love of the residents of Vrindavan, that Braj Bhav. Aishvaya Gyanete Shaba Jagata Mishrita, Aishvaya Shitila Preme Nahi Mora Prita. Understanding my Aishvarya, my opulence, then everybody folds their hands and they begin to worship me with great awe and reverence. But that love is Aishvarya Shitila Preme. It makes love weak. And Nahi Mora Prita, it doesn't attract me. So Gauranga Mahaprabhu said that I'm going to come, Yuga Dharma Pavaiti Nama Sankirtan. I'm going to come to give the Yuga Dharma and Chari Bhava Bhakti Diya Nachamu Bhuvana. I'm going to also give 4 different rasas, 4 different mellows. Now, for those of you who are learned in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, who've studied Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion, you may be a little curious at this point. What does he mean? Why is he giving 4 bhavs? Because there's 5 primary rasas and 7 secondary rasas. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has rejected this mood of worshiping the Lord in an impersonal kind of way. And rather he begins the 4 rasas with servitorship and with friendship, with parental rasa, and with the mellow of conjugal love. But Mahaprabhu rejects that impersonal relationship with the Lord. And then he says, Apani karimu bhakta bhava angika apani achari bhakti sikumu sabari. I'm going to accept the role of a devotee, and I'm going to teach bhakti by practicing it myself. Prabhupada writes in his purport to this verse, he says, no one but the Lord himself can teach this highest form of devotional service. Therefore, when the Lord took the place of the incarnation of Kali Yuga, interesting statement, he took the place because in other Dibya Yugas, in other Kali Yugas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't come, but there's another incarnation who comes. And in this age, Mahaprabhu has taken that place of that incarnation. He's taken the place of the incarnation of Kali Yuga to spread the glories of chanting Hare Krishna, the system of worship recommended in this age. He also distributed the process of devotional service performed on the platform of transcendental spontaneous love. To teach the highest principles of spiritual life, the Lord himself appeared as a devotee in the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Christian, he's thinking, Apani na kaili dharma shikaina najai, eta siddhanta gita bhagavati gai. That unless you practice this, you can't teach it. And I was a theoretical speaker. I said, Mamana bhava mad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskaru, sarva dharmam parichaga, mamekam sharanam. But it was all theoretical. And people couldn't understand it without a practical example. So Krishna thought, I have to come again as a devotee. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's purpose in coming was twofold. He came for an external purpose, and he came for an internal purpose. Dui hetu avatara lana bhakta gun, apani ashvari prema nama sankirtan. He came, these two purposes, to distribute the holy name and to taste love of God himself. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami later in the 4th chapter of the Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he speaks more elaborately about these two purposes. Prema rasa niryasa korite ashvadan, raga marga bhakti loke korite prachan. These are the two purposes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. His external purpose is Raga Marga Bhakti Loke Korite Pracharn. He came to preach Raga Nuga Bhakti. That's his external purpose, not to teach people about vegetarianism. When Srila Prabhupada was in London, the devotees famously came to him once and said, Prabhupada, the Royal London Vegetarian Society wants to invite you to come and give a talk. And Prabhupada then he asked the devotees, he said, do they want to hear about Krishna? And the devotees said, no, Prabhupada, I don't think so. And Prabhupada said, then why will we go? Even the rabbits are vegetarian. We're not interested in spreading vegetarianism. And other times Prabhupada said something very shocking. He said, actually, we're not vegetarian. We are Krishnarian. We only take Krishna Prasad. So just to teach these religious principles like that was not the purpose of the advent of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even the external purpose was to teach, to give this Raga Nuga Bhakti. But he also had an internal purpose. And what was that? Prema Rasa Niryasa Korite Asvadan. To taste this path, to taste this Prema Rasa, this essence of bhakti, to taste the mood of Sri Chaitanya, to taste the mood of Srimati Radharani. And so when Gauranga Mahaprabhu appeared, many things were going on. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes, Hari Boli Nari Gana De Hula Hula. I'll do that again. Hari Boli Nari Gana De Hula Huli. Swage Vajan Nritya Kore Deva Kutu Hali. While all the ladies, they were vibrating the name of Krishna on the earth. In the heavenly planets, everybody was dancing because the demigods were feeling very, very happy. So on the pretext of a lunar eclipse, Gauranga Mahaprabhu appeared in this world. And all the religious people were chanting the holy name. Now, it's interesting to note that the Srimad Bhagavatam describes that the chanting of the holy names also takes place in Satya Yuga. But it doesn't catch on very much. It's not very big because the sadhus in that age, they're a lot more impressed with Homa, with doing yagyas. And they don't really consider the chanting of the holy name to be such an important thing. The chanting of the holy name is there in every yuga, but it's the yuga dharma, especially in Kali Yuga. But what Gauranga Mahaprabhu came to give is not the ordinary yuga dharma. At the time of his appearance, religious people were taking bath in the Ganga and they were chanting the names of Hari, because that's what you do. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu, he was causing this. He's Sankirtanai Kapitaro. And in Chaitanya Bhagavat, it said that at that time, the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they became very, very happy to see that chanting going on. But there was also an internal purpose. We'd like to speak a little bit about something of both. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it's described that after Mahaprabhu's appearance, this is from the Adi Kanda chapter 5, that the small boy, Nimai, began to perform various pastimes while he was in the house of Jagannath Misha. And one day, Jagannath Misha told his little boy, hey, you bring my book. Amara Pushtaka Ana, Bapa Vishwambar. Bapa means a father. Amara Pushtaka Ana, you bring me my book. And so when Vishwambar, who Vishwambar means the maintainer of the universe, when he ran into the next room, suddenly you could hear Runa Juna Kori Nupura Bhaji Pai. You could hear the sound of ankle bells. And Jagannath Misha said, where is that sound coming from? And he and Sachimata were looking and looking. Our son's not wearing ankle bells. Where does that sweet sound come from? They thought, this is really strange. Anyway, what to do? And so then Nimai gave his father the book and he went outside to play. And then they went inside the room where they heard the ankle bells, where Nimai had just been, and they saw an extraordinary thing. Sabagrihe deke aparupa padachina dvaja braja ankusha pataika di bina bina. They saw these amazing footprints that were there. They were decorated with symbols like the flag and the thunderbolt and the club. They saw all the symptoms of Krishna's feet. And when Jagannath Misha and Sachimata saw that, they were like, wow, this is really, really far out. They started crying, their hair stood on end, and they started rolling on the ground. They offered obeisances to those footprints. In the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it's described that one night, Nimai, little Nimai, saw the moon. It was a Purnima, full moon, and his heart became absorbed in the mood of Vrindavan Chandra Krishna. And at that time, Nimai, who'd never gone to school to study music, Nimai picked up a vangsi, a flute, and he began to play it. Apurva Murali Dvani Lagi La Korote Aibai Arakeha Napai Sunite. He began to play that flute in such an enchanting way. And only Sachimata could hear that. And she became struck with wonder. What's going on? And then on another night, Sachimata, she heard hundreds of people singing and playing musical instruments. And she could hear the sound of the Ras Leela going on. And Sachimata she thought, wow, maybe I ate too many chilies today or what, I don't know. She was very, very astonished. In the Chaitanya Mangal, in the Adi Kanda, in the Balya Leela pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Lochandas Thakur, he encourages us, please listen. He says, Adadina eka kata suna sabadane apana prakasha prabhu koila jaina mani. He said, my dear devotees, eka kata sun, you please hear one story, and you hear Sabadan very carefully about how Gauranga Mahaprabhu revealed his true identity. In one room, Jagannath Misha was there. In another room, Sachi Mata was there with her son in her arms. She was happily sleeping, and suddenly she heard a little sound, and she woke up and she saw, what's going on? The whole room is full of all kinds of different, very big, powerful looking people. Maybe they're soldiers. They have all kinds of weapons and things. She became afraid. And those big people, they took Nimai from the arms of Sachimata, and they placed him on a jeweled throne, and they began to worship him. They were not wrestlers or bodyguards or soldiers. They were demigods. And then they began to offer prayers to that little Nimai. Jaya Jaya Jagannatha Bada Palana Kali Juge Moshabade Koribe Poshana. He said, all glories to that personality who's known as Jagannath. He's the Nata of the universe. He's Jagannath Sutta. He's the son of Jagannath Misha. Sabara Palana. You're the protector of everyone. In Kali Jugi Mosabadi Koribe Poshana. You've come to deliver us, to nourish us in this age of Kali. And the demigods then, they very intelligently began to pray. Brindabana Dana Rasa Dibe Mosabade Nibedana Toma Charane Vishvambade. Oh, hey, Vishvambar. Brindabana Dana Rasa Dibe Mosabade. This is what we want. You give all of us the treasure of Vrindavan. We're coming and we're begging at your lotus feet like this. Meanwhile, Sachimata was watching all this, and she sees this guy with eyes all over his body worshiping her little Nimai. She sees someone else with 5 heads, and she sees someone else with 4 heads who rode in on a swan, and Sachimata kind of lost it. And she started calling out, Nimai, Nimai. She wasn't just afraid for herself, but she thought, what's going on with my son? And she grabbed her boy and took him to his father. By this time, she could understand that those personalities were demigods. So she said, you should stay with your father. There's no demigod staying there. They're only coming to my room. And so Vishwambar went there. And as he went, Vrindavan Das Thakur says again, Sachimata could hear the tinkling of anklet bells, although he wasn't wearing any. And when he left that room, all the demigods, they folded their hands and they started following him. And then Nimai turned around and he spoke to those demigods. Prabhu kohe deva gana nacha amare gaha Radha Krishna lila kahila sabhare. Gauranga Mahaprabhu said, what are you doing? Don't stare at me. You should sing, do kirtan, chant the names of Radha and Krishna. And then he gathered all the demigods together, and Nimai touched them. And Deva Radha Krishna Prema Ganite Mishana, he had them do ecstatic Prema Nam Sankirtan. And then in that kirtan, Apani Kandena Kandayena Deva Gani, he began to cry. And all the demigods began to cry. Apani Kandena Kandayena Deva Gani, Radha Radha Govinda Prabhu Balichu Kangane. And Mahaprabhu was calling out, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda. And then Nimai. He began to call out, Kalindi Jamuna Brindabana Boli Dake, Radha Radha Bolia Dakena Mahashuke. He started calling out, Kalindi Jamuna Brindavan. And all the demigods, they started calling out, Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. And then Jagannath Mishra woke up and he said, well, what's all this sound? And Sachimata started crying. Well, I don't know what's going on. There's all these strange people coming here. Huh? And then at that moment, Jagannath Mishra remembered the pastimes of Krishna. And Sachimata then, she told her husband what had happened. Charimuka Panchamuka Adi Jata Deva Dibyajani Asikoila Balakera Seva. She said, I saw Charimuk, four-headed Brahma came, Panchamuk, five-headed Shiva, and Adi, all the other demigods, they came on celestial airplanes, and they started serving our son. Prangane Nachila Putra Radha Krishna Boli Amiha Sunila Swapnavat Mani Kuri. Our son started calling out, Radha Krishna, Bolo Bolo, do chant Radha Krishna. And all the demigods started doing an amazing kirtan in our courtyard. I saw Yamaraj jumping up and down and chanting, Haribo, Haribo, Haribo. Huh? And there was Lord Shiva dancing and Brahma was dancing. And when I saw this, I became afraid. So I sent him to you. I don't know what's going on. Huh? You should think, Sachimata then prayed to her husband, you're my pati. Who is really a pati? Pati means someone who offers protection. Vigna nivarana hetu pratikar chinta balaka mangalakaru deva adi anta. My dear husband, you have to think of some way to protect him from dangers. Some way where all the demigods, they'll all bring balaka mangala. They'll give some mangala, some auspiciousness to our balaka, to our son Nimai. This is the prayer of Sachimata. My Guru Maharaj used to say that Gaura Lila is Krishna Lila and Krishna Lila is Gaura Lila. That Gaura Lila is a parishishta or an appendix of Krishna Lila, because Krishna Lila wasn't complete. My Guru Maharaj said that Krishna Lila is like a green mango. It's not fully ripened. But when Radha and Krishna come combined in one form as Gauranga Mahaprabhu, then that Gaura Varna comes. Shama Sundar becomes Gaura Sundar. And that's the fully ripened mellow. And therefore he said, we won't go to that place. If Radha Krishna are there, but Gauranga Mahaprabhu is not there, we won't go there. And therefore Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in whatever temples he established, he would establish Radha Krishna and also a deity of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So I'd like to speak a little something about, we spoke something about some of the external purpose, and even that external purpose extends to the point of getting the demigods to chant the holy name. But there's also an internal purpose. And to understand that internal purpose, we need to understand something about the mood of Srimati Radharani and the feelings of Krishna towards Srimati Radharani. So now I'd like to take you to another place. I'd like to take you to the land of Vrindavan. In a wonderful book known as Vaidagda Vilas, written by a great devotee named Manohar Das, in the 8th chapter, which is called Viparita Leela, or the pastimes of the two opposites becoming one. This is also known as the Dasi Leela. One day in Nandishwar, Krishna, who tells everyone in Bhagavad Gita very clearly, Yeyatam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham, that however someone approaches me, I reciprocate accordingly. That same Krishna was feeling frustrated. Although he's Aptakam and Atmaram, he's fully satisfied in every way, still he wasn't satisfied because he had promised I'll always reciprocate with my devotee, however they approach me. But he said, Napariyeham niravadyasam yujam. I don't know how to repay my debt to Radharani and the gopis, because their love is niravadyasam yujam. They don't want anything for themselves. They only want to see me happy. How do I reciprocate with that? So one day he was speaking with his very intimate associate, his intimate friend, Subal Saka, who's a Priyanarma Saka. And he was speaking to him about the love of Radha. And he said, hey, Subal, somehow if I could just touch Radharani, I'll get so much pleasure. If I can't just see her for a moment, I become unhappy. And then again, if I can see Radha, I forget about everything. If Radharani could be a deity, then I would always serve her in the temple. And Manohar Das sings when he tells this story. Amara sevayata ashtakala jai, nija dukkha nahi gane mora sukha chai. Srimati Radharani Amara sevayata ashtakala jai. She spends all of her time serving me. Nija dukkha nahi gani mora sukha chai. She doesn't care anything about her own unhappiness. She only wants my happiness. Bala sake ama hoite kichu nahila. Purusha janama ami britta jedarila. He said, you tell me, Subal, tell me, I haven't done anything. And don't try to tell me, Krishna, don't you remember your God? You've done everything. You created the universe. No, I haven't done anything. Purusha janma hoila britta jedharila. My Purusha janma, my birth as a male is britta. It's useless. It's a little controversial what Krishna thought to himself at that time. Please excuse us. Ramani hoita jadi sangeti rahita. Manasade kota seva takiya korita. Krishna thought to himself, long before anyone else thought like this, in a perverted reflection, Ramani hoite jadi. If I could become a woman, then I could be with Radharani, Sangiti Rahita, and Manasade Kota Seva, then I could serve her. And so, thinking like this, Krishna, who is a supreme Purush, who's Adi Purush, the original Purush, Sarva Karna Karnam, the cause of all causes and all that be, he decided, I'm going to become a maidservant of Srimati Radharani. And so he told Subal, hey, Subal, I want you to dress me up like a maidservant. Now, I want to caution all of you before Mayapur Mahaprabhu decides to put on a sari and a bindi or something. I don't think it's a good idea. They may not let you in the temple if you do like that, okay? Don't try to imitate this pastime. But Krishna was doing like this. He told Subal, you dress me up like a very poor maidservant. Radharani is very, very merciful. Krishna, come. Give me that bag from the door. He said, Radharani is very merciful. If she sees how unhappy I am, then definitely she'll give me the right to serve her. She'll give me the qualification on the door handle. So Subal said, okay, I'll do that. And so they went to a lonely place, and he took a rough, gray, old sari and a choli, and he gave that to Krishna. And he tied Krishna's hair up in a knot. He put some ankle bells on his feet and some bracelets on his wrists. And good. And a nose ring on him. And he put 2 well-placed mangoes in just the right place. And Manohar Das describes at that time, Etika Baliya Krishna Dasi Besakore Kia Purva Sobata Jaga Manohare. When Krishna dressed up like a lady like this maid servant. His beauty, Jagal Manohare, it enchanted the whole universe. And so then at that time, Krishna took a bag and he put some old torn cloth in it, a mirror, a broken mirror, and some garlands and some different things. And he slowly started walking to Javat. Now, as he was going, he, who looks like a she, on the way to Javat, so many people stopped her, and they were all very, very attracted. Who are you? Oh, we've never seen such a beautiful lady before. But that lady appeared very, very shy, and she would just cover her head with her cloth and turn her face away from all of them. And she wouldn't say anything to them. When she arrived at Javat, the gopis of Javat, they asked her, who are you? Where are you from? Where are you going? And Krishna then began to speak with the voice of a woman. And Krishna said, I belong to Mathura, and I'm going to the house of someone named Radha. Can you please tell me where I can find her house? I am a foreigner. I don't know where she lives. I want to meet her. When Srimati Radharani heard that maidservant speaking like this, she said, hey, that's such a sweet voice. She told her Saki, who's uttering my name and calling me? The Saki went and checked, and she came back and she said, there's some black lady here from a distant place. She's black, but she's very beautiful. And Srimati Radharani said, bring her here. And they brought Shamsundar Krishna there, who was dressed up like a maidservant. And Krishna entered in, and he was looking around, and he said, oh, is there someone here named Radha? He was acting like he didn't recognize Radha. He said in his lady's voice, which one is Radha? And then the Sakis, they pointed Radha out, and then Krishna bowed down before Radha. When Srimati Radharani saw the beauty of that maidservant, she welcomed her and offered her a seat. But that lady shook her head in a very shy way and just sat on the ground looking very sad. And Radharani then said, what's your name? Where do you live? What's your caste? Why have you come here? Why are you roaming around alone? Don't you have a husband or someone else? You're very young and beautiful. And finally, that lady, Krishna, spoke in a very shy way and said, I've been alone here for a long time. I go around like this. I'm a Vaishya. I live in Mathura, and my name is Ramika. I live with my parents. I'm very poor. I have no way to maintain myself. I heard about your glories, and I came here to be your maidservant. And Krishna, as a maidservant Ramika, told Srimati Radharani, Iha pada kala hita mane te janimu, Tomara charana ami sadhana loimu. He said, for a long time, Iha pada kala, I've been thinking about you. And now I'm coming to take shelter of your lotus feet for the rest of my life. Now, this wonderful pastime, it's not just Braj Leela. If you look a little deeper between the lines, you can find Gauranga Mahaprabhu. That same word, that Parakala, that for a long time, I've been thinking about you. And now I'm coming to take shelter of your lotus feet. That's Gauranga Mahaprabhu. I want to stay here for the rest of my life. I've heard that you're so merciful. You fulfill everyone's desires. Please be merciful to me. And that girl Ramika began to cry. And Radha said, don't worry, it's okay. Tell me, what do you want in exchange? And Ramika said, no, I don't want anything. I only want to serve you. Radharani was impressed. She said, okay, what kind of service can you do? And Ramika said, anything you request. I know all services. And Radharani looked at it. It's not a small thing to tell Srimati Radharani. How is it you know all types of services? And then Ramika got a little shy. She said, I only want your mercy. Mm-hmm. And so Radharani became very, very pleased. And she told her Sakis, I feel very sorry for her. Her complexion's blackish, but she's very beautiful. Huh? And see how beautiful her eyes are and her lips. She reminds me of my Vrindavan Bihari Krishna. And when I see her, I become very, very happy. And so in this way, Krishna fulfilled his desire to serve Radharani. Now, no one was there to train him up. There was no bhakta program. When Krishna became a new devotee, a new bhakta in the mutt and in the temple of Radharani. But he was doing those services very, very carefully. He was preparing Radharani's bed. He would use a celestial bed sheet and he would decorate it with fantastic decorations that have flowers. Then he would spray some wonderful fragrance over the bed. And then he would put some golden slippers down near the bed for Radharani. And when Radharani would lie down, then Krishna, as Ramika, would gently fan her. And all the Sakis are so charmed to see how this Ramika was serving Radharani in such a wonderful way. Finally, Radharani says, how is it possible that such a poor woman can know how to do such decorations and everything? And when Krishna heard that, he became a little nervous. And he said, well, I used to serve one of Kamsa's queens. And I was trained up by her. I learned some different things. When Radharani would get up from her rest, then Ramika would arrange a seat for her. He would bring scented water to rinse her mouth. He would pour the water on her hands, and then very carefully, with a celestial towel, Krishna would wipe her face. But he was very, very careful not to touch her body, because Krishna knew if I touch her body, then she's going to understand who it is. And so he would arrange for Radharani's afternoon tiffin. This is a process of deity worship. He prepared different sweet fruits and different sweets. He would cut the fruits in the shapes of different birds, like swans and parrots, and make them into different flowers and things. And he would make beautiful decorations of the fruits and sweets. He would fill up a golden jug with scented water. And he would call Radharani to sit there to take her meal. And everyone and all the gopis are so very, very satisfied. And Radharani, being so satisfied, she began to glorify the services of Ramika. She said, where has this maidservant come from? She's pleased me so much. It used to be, I could only think of Krishna, but now I'm always thinking of Ramika. I don't know how that is. I can't stop thinking of this maidservant. But I feel very sad when I see she's wearing this old rotten cloth. Sakis, you go, bring me my jewelry box and that box of fine dresses. And they brought them, and then Ramika told her, you take off your sari and your ornaments, and you put on this very nice dress. And at that time, now Krishna's in big trouble, right? He can't take off that dress. Ramika said, thank you so much. You're so kind. I like my own personal dress. It's very good. And Radharani said, no. You're wearing old rotten cloth. And Krishna said, no, I have some nice cloth here in my bag. Radharani said, give me that bag. What do you have in there? And Radharani pulled out of the bag some old rotten cloth with holes in it. And Radharani said, what is it? And she threw it away. You can't wear this thing. And Radharani, then she told the Sakis, this is the nature of a poor person. He feels shy. So she called her Sakis, hey, Lalika, Vishaka, forcibly get her dressed. You undress her and forcibly put some clothes on her. So two Sakis, one on each side, grabbed Ramika, and they forcibly tried to take off her dress and ornaments. But then they were surprised. They told Radha, actually, this maidservant, she's very strong. And Krishna was holding on very tightly to that cloth. And finally they said, Radhe, we're not able to do it. And then Radharani, she said, here, let me do. And Radharani came and she started pulling on Ramika's clothes. And at that time, Rasika Shekhar Krishna began his rasa of crying. And Radharani said, poor people don't understand the value of anything. What are you doing? And she forcibly took off Ramika's blouse. And then suddenly, these two mangoes fell down on the ground. And for one full moment, everyone was quiet. And then Srimati Radharani, she shook her head and she shook her finger at Krishna and she said, Roi bole bala bala rasika nagara ketomake shikai lae vyabahara. Radharani said, very good, very good. Rasika Nagar Krishna, who's taught you to behave like this? Janme janme dasi amitava Sri Chaitanya Tumi dasi hoile nata kishira karane. Life after life, I'm your maidservant. Why have you come and tried to be my maidservant? It's very, very bad. Padidari paduka nata paile charane. Smariya tomarakaya lajapaya jane. You help my feet to put on my shoes. I'm feeling very, very ashamed of this. And then Srimati Radharani, she took Krishna and put him on a jeweled throne. And she began to bathe his feet with pure water. And then she began to dress Krishna in his pitambara dhoti and ornaments. And she began to decorate Krishna in so many different ways. And all the gopis began to do like that. So Krishna was not able to fulfill his desire in Krishna Lila to become the maid servant of Srimati Radharani. To fulfill that desire, he had to come again in Gaura Lila. He had to come as Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Shama Sundar had to become Gaura Sundar. So on this Gaura Purnima day, we want to remember Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and we want to try to understand something about the internal and external purposes in his coming. Not just the external purpose, that's a common thing. He's giving that Kebala Nam, but we want to understand something about Prema Sankirtan, Prema Nam Sankirtan. Gauranga Mahaprabhu's Kirtan is the Kirtan of Srimati Radharani. And therefore in his Kirtan, he's not chanting Radhe, Radhe. He's chanting Krishna, Krishna. If the gopis go to Radha, they don't start chanting Radhe, Radhe. She'll say, what are you doing? Stop that noise. Do Krishna Kirtan. She likes to hear the sound of Krishna. And this is how Krishna had to repay his debt to Srimati Radharani. So as we mentioned in the beginning, Krishna appears at midnight and Radharani appears at noon, whereas Gauranga Mahaprabhu appears at the time of the moonrise of Purnima. He's half Radha and he's half Krishna. And if we don't understand the mood about Radharani, we can't really understand Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So I'd like to stop there and ask the devotees if they have some reflections. Looks like there's a number of comments. Rasaraj Gaur Prabhu, can you guide me? What should we do? We're also late and I don't want to get in trouble. Rasaraj Gaur might get angry with me. He looks like an angry kind of person.
We still have, I believe, 25 minutes left. Like His Grace Mahamananda Prabhu had shared, that hearing is not a passive thing, that we have to have these exchanges with each other, go back and forth. So it'd be really nice, like Prabhu has mentioned, if we can share our thoughts, reflections on Prabhu's class. If you'd like to do that, please kindly raise your hand and we can unmute you so we can hear from yourselves. I know some of you may wish to use the chat facility instead, so you can put your reflections in the chat box, either publicly or you may want to send them anonymously to Madhavananda Prabhu to read on your behalf.
So there's a question, kind of half question, half comment from someone named Krishna Premavati Dasi, who apparently is from Holland. And she sings Shantaras. Yes, Shantaras is what we're speaking about. In Satya Yuga, there's meditation. Sometimes there's Homa. It's also in Treta Yuga, Homa. And she's commenting that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's footprints are the same as Krishna's. Well, not exactly. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's footprints are a combination of the footprints of Radha and Krishna. And Satyamata saw both of those, but then did he purposely leave Krishna's footprints? Apparently, we hear both in Chaitanya Mangal and in Chaitanya Bhagavat that Nimai left Krishna's footprints. And that seems to be just some sweet pastime he was doing to kind of play a trick on his mother. Just like children, they like to play tricks on their mother. And then she comments why in, I guess that's Narayan Maharaj's group, the men keep hair and beard, but shave up on Gaura Purnima. Well, it's not only Narayan Maharaj's group. Rasaraj Gaura Prabhu, he's also got a beard, and Mayapur Madha Prabhu has a beard. They look very handsome with their beards, I think. But Srila Prabhupada, he wanted us to be clean shaven. He encouraged the devotees to do that. Not everybody was always clean shaven, and Prabhupada didn't exactly reject them. Who was it? Prabhupada's personal servant who wrote the book, A Hare Krishna Explosion. Hayagriva Prabhu, famously, he liked to keep his beard, and that was okay with Srila Prabhupada. Mukunda Maharaj, when he was first associating with Prabhupada for some time, also kept some beard. But in general, in the Gaudiya Mutts, they shave their face and head on the Purnima. And so that's why they do on this day. She says, lovely presentation of the verses. Is that your Guru Maharaj's tune? That's a particular raga that one of my teachers taught us. She said, I'm attracted to the Radha Dasya and the Narayan Maharaj followers while I'm from ISKCON. How do I reconcile that? Well, we all have our particular family. But as we grow a little older and we become more mature, we become friends with different people in different sanghas. And although that may be a little controversial, and I hope I don't disturb anyone, I personally don't see anything wrong with that. I live here in Jagannath Puri. I'm friends with many different Vaishnavas and different sanghas, but my family is the family of Srila Prabhupada. And my Guru Maharaj taught me like that he was friends with many different Vaishnavas. He wasn't a fanatic. He wasn't sectarian. Gaudiya Vaishnavas can't be sectarian. We appreciate even Christians or Muslims and what to speak of Vaishnavas, but we have our particular family. And it's a little difficult sometimes in ISKCON because the glory of ISKCON is simultaneously, in a kind of ironic way, the most difficult thing about it. Our glory is that we preach to new people and so many new people come. But ironically, that also is a difficult thing because we have so many new people and it's difficult with those kind of persons. Pure nectar, thank you, Prabhu. Okay, anybody else is raising their hand or anything? Rangaraj Krishna Prabhu has raised his hand. Can you unmute yourself?
Mute him now. Rangaraj Krishna Prabhu, over to you.
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm unmuting myself. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, just hold for a moment. My battery is 1%. I just plug in and just hold for a moment. Actually, my battery is just down completely.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, while he's taking care of his battery. My grandma sometimes, give me some of my notebooks over this, just a few of them. My grandma sometimes, he came back from the GBC meetings and he said, everybody had their computer. And he showed his notebooks and he said, this is my computer. It's better than a smartphone, better than a computer because the batteries never run out.
Yes.
What to do in this day and age.
Okay. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I really liked your class today. I have just one doubt. Like, I asked various devotees regarding the same. It's like, I want to develop faith in Gaur Hari and Nityananda Prabhu. But as I come from Bihar and Bengal, I have seen many different sects from which are just imitators of God. So I just started from today. I tried to start Chaitanya Charitamrita also that I will read. But the seed of bhakti, I want to have unflinching faith. As we say, Krishna is God, Ram is God. I want to say as Lord Chaitanya is also Supreme Lord. Because he's a Chand Avatar, it sometimes becomes difficult for me to get his full mercy or have a full faith. I asked various devotees, they told me they have a similar kind of difficulties. So somebody told me to associate with people who has a very strong faith in Lord Chaitanya. I understand you have, but apart from that, trying to association is also personalism is very much required. But I want to understand like how to increase my faith completely. That I have a full faith that yes, Lord Chaitanya, whatever pastime I saw, read, he's a supreme personality of God. No such
Okay.
spark comes. Oh, I have seen some kind of thing in some pseudo
Yeah.
incarnation also.
Yeah, I think I understand. Rangaraj Krishna Prabhu, can I ask you, how old are you?
33.
33. Okay, I want to tell you a story, a true story about another Bihari who
Okay.
also didn't know anything about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But at some point, somehow he found a Hindi translation of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he started reading that. And he went to his teacher, whose name was Hanumat Prasad Podar. You may have heard of him, Gita Press, very
Yeah.
famous devotee.
Yeah.
And he told him, I want to understand something about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Hanumat Prasad Podar told him that I'm not the person to teach you about that, but there's one old friend of mine. He can teach you, and his name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. You should go to him. Mhm. And so a little after that, this was in Gorakhpur, Srila Prabhupada came to Gorakhpur with a group of followers. And that young man went to meet Srila Prabhupada. And when he arrived there, he was disappointed to find that Prabhupada had already left. And all the devotees were gone. They'd gone for a walk or something. Everybody was gone. There was only one old man sitting in the room there by himself. And so this young man came in the room. He offered obeisances to that old man. And the old man asked him, who are you looking for? And he said, I'm looking for the sadhu, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And that old man asked him, what do you want with him for? And he said, well, I want to hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from him. And the old man said, what do you want to hear about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for? And the young man said, because he's Krishna, he's God. And that old man said, nonsense. He's not God. Who told you that? And then the young man became a little annoyed and started arguing with that old man. No, he's actually Krishna, and he spoke like this and this, and he's giving different arguments. And then in the midst of their quarrel, he's chastising that old man. Suddenly a young Western devotee came in the room and offered obeisances to that old man. And the young man all of a sudden realized, oh, this is Prabhupada. And Prabhupada started laughing. And he told the devotees there, he said, just see, he was arguing with me. Prabhupada was very pleased. He was arguing with me that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was God. And he accepted that devotee. And that devotee rendered service to Srila Prabhupada. That devotee later became initiated. And today his name is Radha Govinda Maharaj, one of our most famous Bihari devotees. And Radha Govinda Maharaj also came from a very pious background like you, Rangaraj Prabhu, I think. But he also didn't know anything about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was fortunate, like you, to come in contact with Chaitanya Charitamrita. And by reading that, he got some faith. But that wasn't enough. He also had association. But even that association is also not enough. In the first canto of the Bhagavatam tells us, Shu Shu Sho Shadadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Shan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtana Sevanat. We should serve the devotees of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And by serving them, whatever doubts we have in our heart, they'll go away. And we'll understand Gauranga Mahaprabhu only by their mercy. Okay, I hope that's okay, Rangaraj Prabhu. I want to be a little quick. I'm sorry that was a long story. So I think there's a few devotees who have some comments or questions. Here's someone named Braja Banita, who we know. Braja Banita snuck into this group. She's actually from Israel. She says, thank you very much. It's so important to hear this connection of Radhika's mood with Gauranga's, because really, how can we understand Lord Chaitanya without having a deep meditation on the mood of Sri Radha? It's a pity this topic is so rare in our movement. It's not a surprise that it's so rare. It's natural, because we should understand, as I often comment, the purpose of our temples. The purpose of our temples is not just for our pleasure. The purpose of our temples is for preaching, to serve Srila Prabhupada. The purpose of our temples is to bring new people, to facilitate book distribution, to train new people, to have festivals for the congregation. And it's natural that there's going to be a lot of new people there. And it's not so appropriate in such an assembly to speak about confidential things like the mood of Radharani. But we also need that for ourselves. As we were hearing from Krishna Premavati Mataji from Holland. She also is attracted to that kind of thing. We should also have this in our society, but it's not something to advertise. It would be inappropriate. We need to have a little private Zoom room for that. We need to have a private Shiva Sangam, a private Gambira for that. Okay, I hope that's all right. Shanti Kodichuk comments, I'm very ignorant, an ignorant person. I'm trying to learn more. How auspicious today is Gaura Purnima. I understand that every day is auspicious. My father, who is so religious and read Gita every day without fail, he passed away on Gaura Purnima. Wow. That's very, very amazing. Well, these days, just as the Dham is non-different from the Lord, because that Dham is scarred. There's a sanskar, there's a scar there, the pastimes of the Lord, and it's still present there. And we can reach our hand out and touch it. But our hand should take Shitapata. We see that Dham with our ears. And so in the same way that the Dham is marked by the Lord's presence, so also astrologically is the Advent day, the Janmashtami, Radhastami, Gaura Purnima day. And these days are very, very auspicious. We read in the Nishinga Purana about how one dacoit was enjoying with a prostitute, and they got in an argument, and they became angry with each other, and they fasted for the whole day. And that day just happened to be Nishinga Chaturdasi. And because they fasted on that day, even though they didn't know that it was an auspicious day, that dacoit who'd killed many people and was attached to the association with a prostitute, he took birth as a son of a demon. That demon's name was Hiranyakashipu, and he took birth as Prahlad Maharaj because of that fasting on Nishinga Chaturdasi. So to leave your body or to take birth on this day is a very, very auspicious thing. Shanti, you're very fortunate you have such a special father. And let's see, Nitya Sankirtan Yagya Prabhu says, could you explain how book distribution assists Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his internal reasons for his appearance? And if so, how? If it does, and yes, it definitely does. We can look at the book distribution in an external way, and even we can think that I can tell you a little story. I was living in a cave in the mountains in Arizona, trying to chant Hare Krishna. I'd met the devotees, and I decided this is really dry living in a cave. I want to be with the devotees. So I came down to the nearest town, which happened to be Tucson, Arizona. I knew there was no temple there, but I ran into the devotees by Krishna's arrangement at the university where they were doing a preaching program. And they were undercover with baseball caps and things, and they're selling prasadam and having displays about vegetarianism and Bhagavad Gita and reincarnation. And I went to them, I said, I know who you guys are. You're the Hare Krishna devotees. And at that time, Charu Prabhu, Prabhupada's disciple, did a funny thing. I was a caveman. I had long hair. I had a beard. I was dressed in old dirty clothes. He gave me a box of Bhagavad Gitas and he said, here, go distribute these. I didn't know anything, but I went and started handing out those Bhagavad Gitas to people. So book distribution can be done in different levels. That's one level. And someone can be thinking about scores and about money And that's okay. And those things help. And it's very, very pious. It's very, very wonderful. And we don't for 1 second ever want to discourage them. But that book distribution is also there at a very intimate level. This is what I call the kirtan of our sampradaya. That Srimati Radharani's Sakhis, her intimate companions, seeing how she's crying in separation from Krishna, they come around her and they do Krishna kirtan to help relieve her pangs of separation. But seeing that kirtan, her feelings are so intense, and wanting to repay his debt to her, Krishna, he comes as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And just as those gopis, they were engaging their associates, their servants in that kirtan, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged the 6 Goswamis in that kirtan, Rupa and Sanatan and others. And they engaged their followers, who engaged their followers, who engaged their followers, who engaged Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who engaged Srila Prabhupada, and who are engaging us. And Srila Prabhupada once said, this book distribution is Nikunja Yuno Rati Keli Siddhyai. This is assisting the gopis in this sense, because we're trying to bring all these personalities to Rupa Raghunath, who are Tulsi Manjari and Rupa Manjari. We're trying to bring them to Sarup Damodar, who's Lalita, and Ramananda Roy is Vishaka. This is assisting the mood of the gopis. So I hope that helps. It's a big topic. We could say a lot. Krishna Premavati Mataji went on. I missed the last part of your response. I hope I can hear back on it. There was someone at the door. So sorry. I think they're going to have some recording or something. Actually, someone is in touch with me, Mayapur Madhav. You could do me a big favor and send me a link to this if you have it on YouTube or something later on. I'd appreciate it. Nitya Sankirtan Yagya Prabhu says, why do devotees fast on appearance days? For me, it's harder to remember the Lord and chant Hare Krishna when I'm hungry and just thinking about food. And why would God want us to fast? That's a really good question. I like practical questions like that. Why does he want me to suffer like that? We're very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada came to us in the West. I heard a story from one of Srila Prabhupada's personal cooks, your old teacher, Lakshmi Moni Mataji. She was cooking for Srila Prabhupada in Mayapur, and it was Nityananda Trayodasi, the day before. And the devotees told her, you don't have to make breakfast for Prabhupada tomorrow because it's a fast day. Okay, so she didn't cook anything for Prabhupada. The next day, someone came running to her, Lakshmi Moni Mataji, and they said, Prabhupada's calling for you. So she came running into the room. She offered obeisances. And Prabhupada said, where's my breakfast? And Lakshmi Moni said, well, Prabhupada, the devotees told me that it's Nityananda Trayodasi and you're going to fast today. And Prabhupada said, yes, it is a fast day. So you should give me some fruits and milk, some cheese, and nuts. We are fasting in this way. And Srila Prabhupada did like that. It's good if we can fast, because if we do some austerities in and of themselves make the heart hard. And in that sense, Rupa Goswami and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says they're detrimental for bhakti. But at the same time, if we have a lot of material attachments, if we're used to illicit desires, illicit activities, if we fast, that austerity can help us. We become what I like to call thin. Just like if you're covered by a layer, by 5 or 6 layers of blankets, you can't see the sunshine outside. But if there's only one blanket, if there's a thin layer over you, then you can see something of it. So when we fast, we do some austerity. When we chant extra rounds, when we go without sleeping, we become thin and our dependence on the body becomes lessened. And just like if you've ever been sick, if you've ever almost died, it's natural sometimes we start crying, we become emotional. And we can, it's easier some ways to think about Krishna, hopefully at that time, because our coverings have gone away. So we fast on these days to lessen those coverings. We fast on these days so that we can please Guru and Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, I can tell you something a little controversial. During Chaturmasya, this is something I asked Shruta Kirti and Hari Sari Prabhu, both Prabhupada's servants. I asked him, did Srila Prabhupada, when he was traveling, fast from spinach and milk and yogurt and these 4 different things during Chaturmasya? And they said, no, Srila Prabhupada never did that. Of course, he's traveling. He's in the West. That's when you're staying in one place. But they both told me a very interesting thing, that Srila Prabhupada, although he didn't do it, he was very pleased when devotees did it. So although Srila Prabhupada took prasadam on at least that one Nityananda Trayodasi, Prabhupada was pleased when he saw devotees fasting on that day. So we can do it for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. We can do it to lessen our bodily attachment. And if it's really difficult for us, take some fruits, take some milk products, take some nuts or some cheese, like Srila Prabhupada said. Our purpose is not to become renunciates. Our purpose is to increase our hearing and chanting. And as you nicely said, why would God want us to fast? He doesn't want us to fast. He wants us to think of him. And if that fasting helps us to think more of him, because I'm not thinking so much about cooking and taking prasadam, then that's good. Okay. Anybody else have any final comments or anything?
Hare Krishna, we just had one more question, if that's okay.
Okay.
Do we have time?
Sure.
What is the reason that devotees like Murari Gupta couldn't be deterred from their devotion to Lord Ram, even though they knew or understood that Krishna Prem is the highest?
In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Natakam by Kavi Karnapur, in the last chapter, he says a very interesting thing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to Advaitacharya, he says that although they may be coming from different rasas, like Murari Gupta, he has a particular rasa and friendship. He's in the mood of Hanuman. He has a Sakya ras toward Lord Ramachandra. And although they may have different Ishtadeves like Ramachandra or like Narayan, still I'm giving all of them this Madhurja ras. And this is why I was speaking recently to one scholar who's been studying Gaudiya Vaishnavism for many years, and he traveled throughout West Bengal and throughout Braj, and he spoke to many different sampradayas, and there's only a few lines in Gaudiya Vaishnavism who are not followers of this Gopi Bhav, who teach this the mood of Subal Saka, like Gauridas Pandit, his line. There's a few lines of Sakya Ras, but he told me in those lines, they stress the mood of Radharani. And they stress the mood of the gopis more also. And officially they say, yes, we have the Sakya Ras, but we have this thing. Why is that? Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came, it's not that he changed the mellow of Murari Gupta, but all of a sudden Murari Gupta had an attitude adjustment and his consciousness expanded and he could understand something much, much more. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's coming to give these moods of Srimati Radharani. It's not mentioned anywhere that he's come to give Sakya Ras or Vatsalya Priti like that. He's come to give the mood of the gopis. Is that okay? Okay, Rasaraj Prabhu. Anything else is there?
There's no more questions that have come through at the moment.
Okay.
So on the behalf of everyone here at ISKCON Birmingham, we would just like to really appreciate, we're genuinely grateful for your association. And I know at the beginning you had mentioned that you had taken shelter under a Kalpa Vriksha tree, and you had taken that shade and received some mercy. And I feel us in Birmingham also have received some of that shade and mercy from hearing from yourself. You said that we are able to see the Dham through the ears, and I feel like that's what we have done this morning. So really appreciate you being here with us. Thank you so much, and we look forward to welcoming you again. I believe it's many of us for the first time are hearing from you, so we would love for you to come back again, and I hope that's okay. So
next time I want to go there because I want you to give me some prasadam.
okay,
The Zoom thing is not nonsense. I'm practical.
that'd be awesome. Thank you. So Prabhu, would you like to sing the Shingadev prayers now? If that's okay.
Okay, I can do it. You want to bring me a pair of cartels, Khan?
Thank you.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralada Lada Dayane. Pralada Lada Dayane. Hiranya Kashipur Vakshaha. Hiranyakashipur Vakshaha. Shilatanga Kale. Shilatanga Nakale. Ito Nishino Padato Nishino. Ito Nishino Padato Nishino. Yato yato yamitato nishino. Yato yato yamitato nishino. Bahi nishino hidaye nishino. Nishino hidaye nishino. Bahi nishino hidaye nishino. Nishino hidaye nishino. Nishinghamadin Sharanam Prapadi. Hamadim Sharanam Prapadi. Tavakara Kamalabade. Nakam Adbhuta Shingam. Davita Hiranyakashipu. Tano Bringam. Keshavadvita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Tavakara Kamalavare. Nakam Adhuta Shingam. Dalita Hiranyakashipu. Tana Bringam Jaya Keshavadvita Narahari Rupa. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Nishingadev, Jaya Nishingadev, Nishingadev, Jaya Nishingadev, Jaya Nishingadev, Jaya Nishingadev, Nishingadev, Jaya Nishingadev. Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Bhakta Prahlad. Jaya Bhakta Prahlad, Bhakta Prahlad, Jaya Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo, 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 Gaura Haribo. Shri Bhakti Vignanashini Shri Bhagavani Ki Jai. Bhaktaraj Prabhat Maharaj Ki Jai. Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Shri Gaura Purnima Maha Mahotsava Ki. Shri Birmingham Bhaktas Ki. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Also, I just wanted to ask that how can we connect with yourself and your work and the publications that you're doing?
I'm on Facebook, Madhavananda, then space letter N, Krishna Kun. There's nobody else with that name on Facebook, Madhavananda N Krishna Kun. And we live stream our classes irregularly. We have a page also called Gopalji Publications and another one called Krishna Katamrita Bindu. And we have our email magazine, which comes out every Ekadasi. And we've had over 450 issues so far. We have our printed magazine. This is the latest issue about Govardhan Hill. We spent 20 years doing research and the stories and philosophy in there. And we managed to put something together which I felt happy. Even Dina Bandhu Prabhu told me, my God, I didn't know any of this about Govardhan. And that made me feel very happy. So we have some publications you could write to us like that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Once again, we're very grateful. to have your association today. So we'll move on to the next part of our program. Ravi, I'll pass it over to yourself, if that's okay.
Thank you, Rasaraj. Thank you so much, Madhavananda Prabhu. We do have our Birmingham deities. If you would like to take darshan, just going to spotlight them. Yeah, so we do have Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra and Shri Gaura Nitai. They are currently in Salihal at the moment at Madhu Prabhu and Sanandani Mataji's house. So yeah, please take darshan before you leave.
And Gornitaya there today too. Very nice.
Yes.
Very, very nice. Wow, thank you all so much.
Thank you so much for that amazing class, Prabhu. And we hope that we can have more of your association, you know, in the near future, whether it's via Zoom or personally as well. So our next part of the program, so we do have, we do have a announcement from the Harinam team. So Ramanama Prabhu, I have made you co-host. Are you able to unmute yourself, please?
Hare Krishna everyone, Vancha Kalpatarubhishya, Kripa Sindhu Patitanam Pavanabhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Please accept my humble obeisances, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. I think first off, happy Gaura Purnima everyone, and I hope everyone is doing well. It's been a long time since we've seen each other, but I hope everyone is coping well in this pandemic still going on. Actually, first, I wanted to thank Madhavananda Prabhu just for such an uplifting class, and I'm feeling, and I'm sure everyone, all the listenings are also feeling enthused and raring to go. So, so I think I'll just go straight into it because it's really been set up nicely by Prabhu's class. So the purpose of this presentation is basically twofold. First off, to report on the Harinam and Sankirtan efforts from the previous year, and also to just let you know about the plans for the future and how you could get involved. And so we, the Harinam team, would like, on this most auspicious day of Gaura Purnima, and on behalf of the congregation, we'd like to offer the results of the Harinam Sankirtan and book distribution efforts from the previous year for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and their lordships. And I think it's played out really nicely because we haven't had any Harinam since December last year, and immediately after Gaura Purnima, following Gaura Purnima, we will have our first one coming back on soon, and so it's something for everyone to look forward to. And you know, it's said the Gaudiya Vaishnav, I know many Gaudiya Vaishnavas who like to, for them, the Gaura Purnima is the new year, so it is the start of the year. So I guess Happy New Year, everyone. And yeah, it's so I'll just start. So the scores from the previous year, the 2019 scores are also on the slide, as you can see. But yeah, so the previous year's slide scores, you will see. So the total number of Harinams were 8, and bear in mind this is during COVID, so you have to really we're thanking everyone who came out during this COVID difficult period, and for somehow we still managed to come out and distribute Lord Gauranga's mercy. So total number of Harinams in 2020, 8. Total number of books distributed in 2020 was 284, and as the, you know, to fulfill Lord Chaitanya's desire of visiting you know, every town and every village, his name being propagated everywhere, we'd like to visit one town every year. So last year we visited Tamworth Town Centre for the first time. So we'd love to offer these results to the lordships and Srila Prabhupada on this auspicious day of Gaura Purnima on the behalf of the congregation. I think if you just go to the next slide, please. So yeah, we just wanted to thank everyone who attended Sankirtan last year, and also thank the wider congregation of the many services that they do to maintain the ongoing Harinam Sankirtan efforts. And so I mean, I'll just read it off the slide. So I want to thank we want to thank Namajar Prabhu, Prameshwar Prabhu and family, Vinod Manjari Mataji, Saroj Mataji, Hemaru Bini Mataji, Rasheshwari, Krishna Balaram, Harinam Prabhu and family, Ananda Keshav Prabhu, Bipin Prabhu, Ratnamala Mataji, Sushil Prabhu, Vijay Prabhu, Sunita Mataji, Nitai Kirtan Prabhu, Vrindavani Mataji, Jai Subal Balaram Prabhu and family, Mai Prabhu and family, Punit Prabhu, Rasaraj Prabhu, Chakradari Prabhu and family, Narangesha Prabhu and family, Ananta Prabhu and family, Sarvashri Gopi Mataji, Jagannath Prabhu, and anyone else we've missed. And I think, you know, I saw Nitai Kripa Prabhu and Padma Malindi Mataji on the call earlier, so I definitely missed them off the list by accident. Please forgive me. And anyone else who've missed, we'd love to thank you for coming out on Sankirtan, whether it was last year or 2019, because without you, we couldn't have done it. And also the wider congregation, we'd love to thank because, you know, for the many services that are going on in the background, such as management or just providing prasadam, which is one of the main reasons we stay out for so long, is because we get prasadam. So we'd love to thank Kushali Mataji, Vrindavan Mataji, and Hemarupin Mataji for regularly providing prasadam for the Sankirtan devotees every Saturday or once every couple of months. Twice a month, sorry. So can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so I figured many of you may not be aware of what's happening in Birmingham at the moment in terms of you know, our services that we have going on. Perhaps some people on this call don't know. One of those services is Harinam Sankirtan. So I just kind of wanted to expand on what is the purpose of it, what are we doing, why we're doing it, and how you can get involved. So as many of us will know, there are 7 purposes of ISKCON, and so Harinam Sankirtan is a service that actually directly fulfills 5 of the 7 purposes of ISKCON, and obviously those 5 are written there. So the first one, systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. The second one, which is to propagate a consciousness of Krishna as he is revealed in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Third one, to bring the members of society together with each other nearer to Krishna, and thus to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the fourth one, obviously, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement, the congregational chanting of the holy name of God, and to reveal the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And finally, the 7th one, with a view to achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. So we can see how Harinam Sankirtan fulfills many of these purposes of ISKCON, and actually indirectly you'll see that by the performance of Harinam Sankirtan, all purposes of ISKCON are actually fulfilled. So, for example, the 5th and 6th, which aren't listed there, indirectly you fulfill for the members and the society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How? Because, well, ultimately the Dham is where the devotees are, and the devotees chanting the holy names of God. So if Harinam Sankirtan is going on, then indirectly that purpose is fulfilled as well. And the other, to bring the members closer for a purpose of teaching a simple and more natural way of life, which is fulfilled by being the example on the street, dedicating our lives around Harinam Sankirtan. So indirectly we are fulfilling that purpose. Yeah, so I mean, Sankirtan is the foundation of our movement, and practically we can see that by the performance of Sankirtan, the other purposes are automatically fulfilled, or other services are managed automatically, or they thrive actually. And you could say that the emphasis, the evidence, is the emphasis that Srila Prabhupada placed on street Sankirtan and book distribution, specifically street Harinam Sankirtan book distribution. We see that from the many letters of Srila Prabhupada to his disciples, we find that practically in all the temples, the primary program was for devotees to go out on the street and to perform Harinam Sankirtan and distribute books side by side. And I'm sure I haven't done the research or I haven't done the data analysis on this, but I'm sure if you compared the temples, how the success of the temples and how they were thriving in terms whether it's financially or the number of members, you'll probably find, I'll bet any money, well, although yeah, we don't gamble, but I bet you any money, it wouldn't be a gamble because I'm fairly certain that if you compare them, you'll probably find that the temples that were more actively engaged in street sankirtan book distribution, those are the temples that were thriving. And until this day, also, you can even see temple examples such as the Budapest temple, where the entire financial and preaching efforts, they're all just dependent on Harinam Sankirtan and distribution of books. So it's very foundational. It's the foundation of the movement, you could say. Can we go to the next slide, please? And on that note, so I just wanted to present to you the vision of the Harinam Sankirtan team and how you could get involved, basically our invitation to you. And that is basically, so we want to maintain what we have. So Srila Prabhupada, when he established the Harinam Sankirtan going out on the streets every day in the various temples, then obviously later on other services were introduced. But we find that if we read his letters, if we read his books, we'll find that he wanted us to maintain what was already there. So one of our main, our vision for the future is to maintain the service that we have going on, but also to encourage new members, because I think we can do a lot better. I think for next year, our offering to Lord Gauranga could be a lot nicer with many more congregation members involved. And that would be really amazing. And there's a goal there to distribute 1,000 of Srila Prabhupada's books every year, at least 1,000, and also to connect new people to other programs. So the other programs being the College of Vedic Studies, the Bhagavatam Sangha, the Sunday Sangha, and also the Kirtan Yoga programs. And by being more consistent and steady and going out on Harinam on a regular basis, with more of the congregation, we want to see obviously many people come forward and show an interest in Krishna consciousness and read Srila Prabhupada's books, and to find out more about our philosophy and ultimately to begin chanting Hare Krishna, which is of course what our movement is all about. And so yeah, this is our invitation to you to please come out on Harinam Sankirtan, and anyone can find their outlet in Sankirtan. So introvert, extrovert, male, female, and nowadays gender neutral or whatever, anyone can find their outlet in Harinam Sankirtan. So whether it's performing kirtan or distributing books or just distributing leaflets so that you're connecting people to the other services we have available, it can be any one of those things. And there's so much more as well that goes on in the background. So, whether it's ordering books, keeping the stock of books, keeping the stock of Lakshmi, taking care of the devotees that come from Harinam Sankirtan and directing them to other services. That's quite a big service opportunity there. And so by doing these services, we're implementing the seeds of Krishna consciousness into thousands of people's hearts, and ultimately, without doubt, they will fructify, because once the seed of bhakti is entered, there's no going back. So can you please go to the next slide? Yeah, so these are the upcoming dates for the next 3 months or so. And if you want a full list, please contact Rameshwar Prabhu, Namacha Prabhu, myself, or Saroj Mataji to get the full list. But these are just the upcoming ones for the next 3 months or so. So the first one is in April 17th, and it will be from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. And so the idea is that actually once a month, we want to have a Maha Harinam in Birmingham and hopefully get many more of you out on the streets, and yeah, have a Maha Harinam every month. And although at the moment, the lockdown restrictions are in place, but we're hoping after sort of next couple of months or so, they will really start to ease in terms of the number of people being able to meet outside. But this is the plan at the moment. First one 17th, which will be in Birmingham, and then we have 3 in May, and then a couple in June as well. But yeah, as I said, at least once a month we'll have a Mahaharinam in Birmingham, and I think what to best engage anyone, or if anyone wants to be engaged at all, the first step really is to just come out. Just please come out, because as long as you hit the pavement, that's it. I mean, we're happy. I mean, every time we see someone new come to Harinam Sankirtan on the Saturday, all of us are ecstatic. And although we may be engaged in books or absorbed in Kirtan at the time, really inside we do feel that, yeah, we're so happy that someone came out. So this is, yeah, I guess this is my request to you on behalf of the Harinam team, that please come out, and thank you, Hare Krishna. Yeah, if any questions, if you have any questions, please contact me or Namachari Prabhu or Ramesha Prabhu or Saroj Mataji. So thank you, Hare Krishna. Dandavats.
Hare Krishna, Namarama Prabhu. Thank you so much. Sorry, Ramanama Prabhu. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation, and to the Harinam team as well. Just to echo Ramanama Prabhu's point, you know, if you can, please do go out on Harinam on the 17th of April, and that will be in Birmingham from 12 till 4 o'clock. So now this concludes this morning program for today. Just a few thank yous from the festival team. So thank you to Anki Prabhu, Amit Prabhu and family for the amazing kirtans that we had earlier on. Thank you to Natalie Mataji and the Prahlad Club team, and also the kids as well who took part in the video. Apologies for the technical issues that we had. So apologies for that. A huge thank you to Madhavananda Prabhu for the amazing class and the Nishingadeva prayers. Thank you to Madhur and Sanandani for spotlighting the deities again. And again, thank you to the Harinam team for the wonderful presentation that we just had. So we do have a short evening program as well, which will include Abhishek. So that will just be Kirtan and Abhishek. That starts at 6:30. We do have Nita Kirtan Prabhu singing and Jagannath Kirtananda Prabhu singing as well. So that will be at 6:30 till 7:30, or 7:15, sorry. We also have ways for fasting as well, and we break fast at 7:14 today. That is UK time. As Rasraj Prabhu mentioned earlier, that if you are not from the UK and you're not living in the UK at the moment, please do check what time break fast is, and that is breaking fast with Ekadashi Prashadam. As Rasaraj Prabhu also mentioned as well, that we do have the ISKCON Birmingham Krishna Kids Club, which is an 8-week course for the kids that are aged between 5 and 11, which will be talking about the Dasa Avatars and several other topics. If you would like some more information on this, then please do contact either any of us festival team or Natalie Mataji, and we'll be happy to provide some more information to you. Next week, we have a very special retreat. It's a 2-day retreat, which is called the Spark of Krishna Consciousness. We have His Grace Rancho Prabhu, Sutapa Prabhu, Akan Didi Prabhu, and Her Grace Marti Mataji. And that is on Saturday and Sunday next week, starting from 10, and that will be throughout the day. So please do join us for that, and we wish you a very happy Gaura Purnima for the rest of the day, and please do tune in. We will be sending out the details shortly on the ISKCON Birmingham group. So yeah, please do join us this evening for Abhishek and Kirtan. Hare Krishna.